When Russia invaded Ukraine, the world watched, expecting Kyiv to fall within days under the might of the Russian army. But more than 2 years later, Ukraine has not only survived, but has bested Russia on multiple occasions. How did this happen? The answer lies in military aid from over 50 countries, with one European nation standing out: Germany. Germany, initially hesitant, has become Ukraine's strongest European ally, providing extensive financial aid, military training, advanced weaponry, humanitarian relief, and diplomatic support. Yet even this powerhouse's efforts seemed insufficient, so Germany devised a bold new strategy to help Ukraine indirectly but effectively. What is this secretive plan? How could it create a defensive shield over Ukraine and potentially turn the tide of the war? In this video, we'll unveil Germany's daring strategy to utilize NATO air defense systems, the geopolitical maneuvers behind this plan, and its long-term feasibility. Let's dive into Germany's plan and discover how this unexpected hero is reshaping the Russo-Ukrainian conflict. Germany wants to utilize NATO air defense systems to shoot down Russian drones over the west of Ukraine, effectively creating a semblance of a no-fly zone in the area. Given how much Russian drones have decimated Ukrainian forces and civilian areas, this defensive shield should help turn the tides in the Russo-Ukrainian conflict. But what would this defensive shield look like exactly? Well, it would cover some 43 miles of the Ukrainian territory, which would now become a safe zone under NATO's protection. The protection in question would come from the alliance's integrated air defense system units stationed in the neighboring countries of Poland and Romania. Of course, the primary reason for the involvement of these two countries is purely geographical. They're located to the west of Ukraine, precisely where the safe zone is to be established. The defense systems themselves would be placed as close to the Ukrainian border as possible. As Agnieszka Brugger, a member of the German Bundestag and the deputy chairwoman of the Alliance 90 in the Greens parliamentary group, puts it, it would be best to deploy air defense systems on the borders of countries that border Ukraine so they could also protect Ukraine's western regions. Anton Hofreiter, a fellow member of the Bundestag and the Alliance 90 in the Greens, was the one to specify that the said bordering countries should be Poland and Romania. His exact words were that the possibility of Ukrainian airspace being protected by systems located on the territory of Poland and Romania should not be ruled out in the long run. The long run part is especially important, given that Germany is yet to receive a green flag to enter Ukraine in this way. More on that later. For now, let's discuss how the idea of entering the Ukrainian airspace even came to be. It begins with the April 13, 2024 attack on Israel by Iran, which fired more than 300 missiles and armed drones at Israel. Despite that barrage, Israel managed to deflect much of the attack thanks to a multi-layered air defense system, which consisted of 170 drones, 110 ballistic missiles, and 30 cruise missiles. But that defense system itself isn't the primary reason Germany has contemplated installing an air defense system inside Ukraine. It was the response of Israel's allies that inspired German decision-makers to propose entering Ukrainian airspace. Israel's first layer of defense was the F-35 combat fighters. You're probably well familiar with this jet. After all, we're talking about arguably the most advanced fighter jets in the world. Originally, the F-35 Lightning II stealth fighter jets were produced by Lockheed Martin. They soon caught the attention of Israel, thanks to their advanced stealth and information processing capabilities, as well as an impressive supersonic speed of Mach 1.6. That's not to mention that these jets can carry up to 18,000 pounds of internal and external ordnance in what Lockheed Martin CEO Marilyn A. Hewson referred to as beast mode. So unsurprisingly, Israel became the first country after the US to acquire the F-35 jets, 50 of them to be precise. However, the country has since made significant changes to the model, manufacturing its own wings and electronic warfare system. The subsequent Israeli F-35 variant was named Adir, meaning the mighty one in Hebrew. The jet's might was on full display in April 2024 when these technological marvels were sent to intercept projectiles launched from the territories of Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Yemen. The F-35s reportedly managed to take out 25 of the 30 cruise missiles outside Israeli airspace. Now, sending fighter jets to intercept missiles isn't always possible. This decision is made based on speed, altitude, and trajectory of the incoming threat, as well as the capabilities of the available air defense systems. But since the projectiles coming at Israel were sent from relatively far away, there was time for the F-35s to take flight. Interestingly, some of the Iranian projectiles were seemingly targeting the Nevatim airbase, which houses the Israeli F-35 variants in the first place. This just goes to show the strategic value Israel and Iran places on its F-35 fleet and the effectiveness of these advanced fighters in countering threats. But mighty as they are, the F-35s couldn't possibly counter all the projectiles sent Israel's way. That's where Israel's long-standing multi-layered defense system took over. Layer number 1, the upper layer, consists of Arrow 2 and Arrow 3 ballistic missile defense systems. The goal of this layer is to intercept medium to long-range missiles. Layer number 2, the middle layer, is the so-called David's Sling. This innovative defense solution tackles short to medium-range ballistic missiles and larger caliber rockets. It's designed to strike the targets directly, shooting them down from as far as 186 miles away from Israel. And layer number 3, the bottom layer, is the famed Iron Dome. This mobile system defends Israel against short-range surface-to-surface rockets and unmanned aerial vehicles, aka drones. Iron Dome is the first missile defense system of its kind, and it's highly capable of handling multiple incoming threats at once, which it successfully proved in April. This system is a primary reason none of the 170 drones sent by Iran hit their targets. But as mentioned, the Israeli air defense capabilities weren't the only reason it was able to thwart the Iranian attack. The US, UK, Jordan, and France also came to Israel's rescue. The US downed over 80 drones and at least 6 ballistic missiles, according to the US Central Command, or CENTCOM. Even more impressively, some of these projectiles were destroyed before even taking flight from the Houthi-controlled areas of Yemen. The rest were intercepted over southern Syria. The US also provided vital intelligence that armed Israel with the necessary knowledge to take out all the threats coming its way. As for the UK, the country's Royal Air Force Typhoon combat jets downed an undisclosed number of Iranian drones. The same goes for Jordan, undoubtedly the most surprising ally to Israel. The country used its advanced radar systems, air-to-air missiles, and F-16 supersonic fighter jets to fend off the Iranian attack. Though to be fair, the reason Jordan got involved appears to be more self-serving. The Iranian projectiles had to enter Jordanian airspace to get to Israel. So essentially, Jordan was defending its country and citizens, not Israel. According to Brian Kachulis, a senior fellow of US foreign policy at the Middle East Institute, this move sends a clear message that Jordan and Israel have this shared interest in making sure that the airspace in their territory is defended. This leaves us with France, which did take part in Israel's defense, but primarily contributed by patrolling the country's airspace. As a result of this joint action, only a handful of the initially launched projectiles managed to reach Israeli territory, and it was only the ballistic missiles which managed to inflict minor damage near a runway at the Nevatim Air Base and to a road nearby. Though the plan was to paralyze the base and thus damage Israel's air capabilities, Iran failed miserably, as the Nevatim base remained operational after and even throughout the attack. That cooperative system is what inspired German military experts Nico Lange and Lieutenant General Heinrich Brauss to put forward the idea of establishing air defense in bordering countries and in Ukraine. Seeing what can happen when allies come together to defend an impacted airspace, the German parliament members, or MPs, brought Lange and Brauss's notion of Germany and NATO doing the same for Ukraine. Perhaps surprisingly, even the opposing political forces, the Greens, the Free Democratic Party, and the Christian Democratic Union, agreed that this was a good idea. Roderich Kiesewetter of the Christian Democratic Union pointed out that this joint action would ease the burden on the Ukrainian air defense and allow it to protect the front. He also mentioned the April attack on Israel as an example, emphasizing that the allies involved in Israel's defense didn't automatically become parties to the conflict. Unfortunately, this argument, as well as the unexpected unity in the Bundestag, wasn't enough to sway the German government to take direct military action in support of Ukraine. This means that Germany isn't allowed to enter the Ukrainian airspace, at least for now. The mere fact that this proposition was even discussed by the Bundestag and attracted so much attention suggests that Germany is reconsidering its role in the Russo-Ukrainian conflict and pushing the boundaries of its commitment to collective defense. If you remember, Bundestag member Anton Hofreiter, who we mentioned earlier, saw this plan being carried out in the long run, so Germany's role in the conflict is likely to continue to evolve. But why hasn't Germany already taken this decisive action to enter the Ukrainian airspace? Well, there are multiple hurdles standing in the way of this historic action. We've already briefly brushed on the first and arguably the most important one. Germany is simply scared that entering Ukraine, even indirectly, would trigger an all-out war with Russia. And let's be honest, a direct conflict with Russia is the last thing Germany would want, especially when both world wars Germany had previously fought against Russia ended disastrously for Germany. And Germany isn't the only one with concerns about escalations. Fear of a greater conflict is also the reason why the US and the UK refused to protect the Ukrainian airspace in the same way they defended the Israeli airspace. The UK's Foreign Secretary David Cameron put it bluntly, saying that deploying NATO forces even indirectly might lead to escalation in terms of a wider European war. Never one to fear an adversary, the US explained its refusal to get involved in a slightly different way. When asked about protecting the Ukrainian airspace with the US defense systems, the White House National Security Council's Strategic Communications Coordinator, John Kirby, pointed out the difference between the Ukrainian and Israeli scenarios. He summed up his difference in 7 words: different conflicts, different airspace, different threat patterns. And to be fair, Kirby's right. Protecting Ukraine would be significantly more challenging than defending Israel from a purely military perspective. Ukraine shares a longer border with Russia, and the conflict zone is vast, with multiple fronts and shifting battle lines. This makes it difficult to establish a clear and secure airspace over Ukraine, especially given Russia's air defense systems and military capabilities. But let's say Germany and other Ukrainian allies move past this fear and commit to protecting Ukrainian airspace at all costs. Is this protection even feasible in the long run? As things currently stand, the answer is a resounding no. Remember, the Iranian attack on Israel was an isolated incident, while protecting the Ukrainian airspace would be an ongoing and complex operation, one that the European allies simply don't have enough air defense systems to sustain. As Markus Faber of Germany's Free Democratic Party pointed out, there are a limited number of air defense systems and missiles available. So for Germany to even think about defending Ukraine's airspace against Russia, it would first have to secure more defense systems. Only under those circumstances would it be possible to deploy Western air defense systems to protect the sky over Ukraine. And let's face it, Ukraine is no Israel. The country doesn't have the groundbreaking Iron Dome or state-of-the-art F-35s. The country waited for what it seems like forever to even get its hands on the few dozen F-16s it does now have. Throw the damage inflicted by Russia in the months of conflict into the mix, and you'll understand why protecting the Ukrainian airspace would be simply overwhelming. It becomes even more worrisome when you consider that Russian drones seem to keep coming. The country is going all in on so-called kamikaze drones designed to carry explosives, loiter around the target for quite some time, and then crash into it. At first, Russia imported these drones from Iran, opting for the Hesse Shahed 136 models. Since the beginning of the invasion, Russia has reportedly fired over 4,500 of these destructive drones at Ukrainian targets. But it gets worse. Russia plans to produce 6,000 of these drones at domestic production facilities by the summer of 2025, which doesn't bode well for Ukraine's already weakened air defense. Of course, Ukraine isn't standing idly by. The country's own drones are getting smarter in an effort to dodge Russia's jamming signals. This allows Ukraine to carry out more effective defensive measures while underscoring the country's continual efforts to adapt to the evolving threat posed by Russia. But how long can Ukraine go on its own? Certainly not for too long. The country's drone interception rates are already decreasing drastically, mostly due to the sheer volume of drones being deployed by Russia. Will this be enough to prompt Germany to go through with entering Ukraine? For now it seems plausible, but it's still not close to fruition. Russia has already accused Germany of entering the Ukraine war, so the country might just as well get directly involved. The accusation came in March 2024, in the aftermath of a leaked conversation between top German officials. Believe it or not, these officials discussed war plans on an unsecured phone line, thus breaking the fundamental protocols of secure communication. Unsurprisingly, Russia managed to intercept this call. The call was then recorded and leaked via Russia Today, the country's state-controlled media outlet. During the call, the German officials discussed the possibility of sending Taurus missiles to Ukraine and the potential impact of this move on the war. A potential target of these missiles would be the highly protected Crimean Bridge connecting Russia to Crimea. As a response to the leaked conversation, Russia summoned German Ambassador Alexander Graf Lambsdorff and registered an official protest. The country saw this conversation as proof that Germany was indeed trying to enter the war in Ukraine, questioning whether German Chancellor Olaf Scholz had lost control over his country and parliament. Russia's response also clearly defined their red lines when it comes to Germany's involvement in Ukraine. Even sending the Taurus missiles would mean Germany is entering the war, which would likely prompt Russia to respond accordingly. But what is it about these Taurus missiles that makes them such a threat to Russia? It's simple, really. The Taurus missiles, jointly developed by Germany and Sweden, are considered one of the most advanced weapon systems in use today. This missile is about 16.5 feet long, weighs 1.4 tons, and can be fired from the air via fighter jets. When fired, it travels at speeds of up to 727 miles per hour, almost the speed of sound, and locates targets that are as far as 300 miles away. Plus, this long-range missile flies at low altitude, only about 114 feet, which makes it nearly impossible to detect with radars. Germany uses Taurus missiles to tackle high-value targets, such as enemy command posts and bunkers. Taurus missiles can penetrate several reinforced concrete walls before the actual warhead explodes, which makes bunkers susceptible to their power. Currently, Germany has around 600 Taurus missiles, 150 of which are ready for deployment. But as things stand, Ukraine won't see a single one of these valuable missiles. Even before the leaked call, Scholz was adamant about not sending Taurus missiles to Ukraine, and he stood firm on this stance time and again. Why? Because of a deep-seated fear of Russia, according to many experts. Though he describes his stance as prudence and not weakness, it's abundantly clear that he believes that supplying Ukraine with this weapon would provoke Putin to such a degree that he would likely retaliate against Germany. So if you're keeping score, that's two things Germany can't do to directly help Ukraine. It can't enter its airspace or send game-changing missiles. And of course, it also can't enter Ukraine in the conventional way, by sending troops. But this isn't surprising. Since the very beginning of the Russian invasion, NATO allies reiterated that no troops would be sent to Ukraine. After all, the country isn't a NATO member, which severely limits the alliance's formal obligations to provide military support. The idea of sending troops to Ukraine became a point of controversy due to a statement made by French President Emmanuel Macron in February 2024. Macron stated, "There is no consensus today to send ground troops officially, but nothing is ruled out." He then added, "We will do whatever it takes to ensure that Russia cannot win this war." Of course, these statements sent shockwaves across Europe. Macron didn't seem too fazed as he reaffirmed this possibility in May 2024. His exact words were, "I'm not ruling anything out, because we are facing someone who is not ruling anything out." But unlike Macron, Scholz did rule out this possibility, loud and clear. Scholz said there will be no ground troops, no soldiers on Ukrainian soil who are sent there by European states or NATO states. NATO's Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg shared the same sentiment, emphasizing that there are no plans for NATO combat troops on the ground in Ukraine. This raises the total to 3 things Germany can't do for Ukraine. But just because Germany can't enter Ukraine just yet doesn't mean it's leaving the country to fend for itself. If you remember, we mentioned that Germany is Ukraine's single largest donor in Europe. So rather than dwelling on all the things Germany can't do, let's review what the country can do, and has done so far. Number 1. Provide military aid. Germany might not be able or willing to send Taurus missiles to Ukraine, but this in no way lessens the sheer amount of military aid the country has sent so far. If we're talking numbers, Germany has spent approximately $1.7 billion on military assistance to Ukraine in 2022 and $5.3 billion in 2023. So far in 2024, Germany announced plans to ramp up military aid for Ukraine by another $4.1 billion. And this comes after the Bundestag approved a staggering $8.2 billion in military assistance for Kyiv in 2024. But how is this money being spent? Germany's financial commitment to Ukraine is channeled into various crucial areas that significantly enhance Ukraine's defensive capabilities. This includes some $300 million spent on training over 10,000 Ukrainian soldiers in Germany. It also covers the advanced weaponry and equipment Germany sent to Ukraine. The money either accounts for the replacement of weapons sent from the stockpiles of the Bundeswehr, Germany's armed forces, or the country's defense industry deliverables. Though Germany's military aid for Ukraine covers virtually all combat areas, assistance in the Air Defense Department probably interests you the most, given the topic of the video. Since the beginning of the Russian invasion, Germany has sent a range of sophisticated air defense systems to Ukraine, significantly enhancing the country's ability to protect its skies. This includes 2 Skynex air defense systems with ammunition, 500 Stinger man-portable air defense systems, and 2,700 Strela man-portable air defense systems. But there are 2 air defense systems that made the biggest difference: the Iris and Patriot defense systems. So far, Germany has sent 4 Iris-T SLM and 2 Iris-T SLS air defense systems to Ukraine, together with their corresponding missiles. The SLM variant tackles short-range missiles up to 7.5 miles of range and 5 miles of altitude. The SLS variant deals with medium-range missiles, having a maximum range of roughly 25 miles and a maximum altitude of 12.4 miles. So far, these systems have reportedly had a 100% success kill rate in Ukraine, even when faced with the notorious kamikaze drones. As for the Patriot air defense system, Germany has sent 2 of these systems to Ukraine so far, with the corresponding missiles included. Compared to the IRIS system, the Patriot air defense offers a broader range of capabilities and enhanced performance. It's designed to counter high-speed, high-altitude threats such as ballistic and cruise missiles, as well as advanced aircraft. From this description alone, it's easy to understand why Ukraine relies on these air defense systems so immensely, especially given how lackluster the country's native systems are. But 2 Patriot systems aren't nearly enough. According to Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, the country needs at least 25 to successfully defend its territory. Germany only plans to give 1 more system in the future, but at least it's going all out on missiles, announcing a shipment of 100 Patriot air defense missiles in June 2024. Number 2. The use of German weapons against targets in Russia. This might be the closest Germany will come to directly entering the Russo-Ukrainian conflict so far. In May 2024, the country authorized Ukraine to hit some targets on Russian soil using the weapons Germany is supplying. This authorization came right after the US did the same, which was seen as a groundbreaking policy change. Ukraine was allowed to use these weapons to defend the border region of Kharkiv, 12 miles from Russia, which has been mercilessly attacked by Russian forces throughout May. With 2 of the most direct military involvement measures out of the way, let's quickly list other ways in which Germany has helped Ukraine since 2022. Number 3. It's imposed massive and unprecedented sanctions on Russia, hoping to financially dismantle the country's almighty war machine. Number 4. Germany has sent massive amounts of humanitarian aid to Ukraine, ensuring that medical care, food, and clean water reach the Ukrainian people quickly. Number 5. Germany has provided direct financial aid to Ukraine to allow the country to stabilize its financial systems amidst the ongoing conflict. Number 6. German high-ranking officials have tirelessly pleaded with other allies to send more aid to Ukraine, placing special emphasis on air defense. Though these pleas have seemingly failed to secure the crucial air defense systems, many countries have been making smaller pledges in response to Germany's efforts. According to the German Ministry of Defense, the following countries have promised to send additional aid as a direct response to the country's efforts: Belgium, Canada, Denmark, France, Lithuania, Norway, the Netherlands, Romania, Spain, the UK, and the US. Number 7. Germany has vowed to help rebuild Ukraine and is already planning national and international short-term and long-term support. Number 8. Germany has been actively helping refugees from Ukraine, supporting them financially and protecting them socially. And number 9. Germany has supported the efforts of the International Criminal Court to document the war crimes Russia committed in Ukraine, both financially and by directly collecting evidence. This extensive list leaves us with a single question: from where does Germany's tremendous willingness to help Ukraine come? Some experts see this support as a result of Germany's commitment to international law and human rights, as well as basic sympathy for the Ukrainian people. However, the more pragmatic analysts point to a combination of strategic, economic, and political factors that drive Germany's extensive support for Ukraine. Chief among them is the fear that if Ukraine falls, the rest of Europe will follow suit. As German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock put it, ultimately it's about one thing: supporting Ukraine keeps the war away from us. Of course, there are also those who claim that Germany simply can't seem to shake its World War II guilt, which fuels its foreign policy decisions and a remarkable commitment to peace and stability. But what camp are you in? Why do you believe Germany is helping Ukraine so extensively? And do you see the country entering Ukraine directly or indirectly anytime soon? Share your opinions in the comments section below. Now go and check out Germany Wants to Get Involved in the Ukraine War, or click this other video instead.